I really like is called the fishbone diagram. And it's so named because if you think about it, it looks like the bones of a fish that branch out. I'm going to include this tutorial in our course content. So following this video, you will have the video for how to use Excel to create your diagram if you're interested in that. So this example of a diagram is one that's looking at the causes, and it's feeding the causes into a problem. The problem is a long waiting time to get test results. And so then this is looking at all of the different causes. And what it has done is it has looked for categories of causes. There are people involved in the process of getting test results. There's an environment. There are materials involved. There are methods for collecting and processing the test results. And then there is equipment that's all needed. And so this was one that became very detailed, looking at those different categories of causes, and then within each category breaking down the things that might have contributed to why it takes so long to get test results. Now, as you are creating your cause and effect essay, please don't feel like these are the categories that you have to use. Your categories are going to be unique to the topic that you are discussing. Okay, so you're not going to need to have people, equipment, materials, methods, environment, that sort of thing. You might find that some of those are applicable to your topic, and that would be, wonderful. Go ahead and include that, but don't feel like this is a copy word for, specifically. I just want you to see the layout. And what I like about how it helps you to organize is that you have to start to brainstorm, what is it I want to say about how the environment created long test time waiting. And then I think you can play around with these to determine which is the most important factor, because that's essential as well in writing this cause and effect relationship. If we're looking at causes, we want to be able to maybe narrow down or identify the most significant cause, the one that is most influential, and then look at secondary causes. Now, this diagram could be flipped. We could have our head of our fish over here, and then we could branch out and look at the effects of something. Okay, so if we started with the topic here, and then we might branch into what are the effects of, waiting for test results or whatever the topic might be. Now, another organizing tool is to use the idea of a traditional outline. And a traditional outline sets up a Roman numeral for each separate topic area. So Roman numeral 1 is typically the introduction, and on your outline you think about what I'm going to use to get the reader's attention, and you write that down. In your introduction, you want to introduce the topic. You want to explain the situation or the event or the problem that you're going to be discussing and explaining in this essay, and then you provide a thesis statement that clearly gives us direction, that lets us know whether we're looking at causes or whether we're looking at effects. Then Roman numerals 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, 6 are going to identify your support. And here I have them labeled as being, the body paragraphs. But I think it's important to understand that if you have a lot of information on, say, a specific cause or a specific effect, you might develop that into a couple of different paragraphs that are still coming under this heading of explaining, just this one cause or just this one effect. So you want to have clear introductory sentences and clear transition sentences that may help the reader to know which cause or which effect we're looking at, whether we're continuing this discussion from the previous paragraph or whether we're moving on to a new cause or a new effect. And then finally, your last Roman numeral corresponds to your last new idea, which is your conclusion, where you will have a restatement, a rephrasing of your thesis statement. You'll want to summarize some of the key ideas that you've given us, and you're going to this is where you get into the explaining the so what. What do we gain from understanding this cause-effect relationship? Why is it important for your readers or for anyone in general to know and understand this relationship? Okay, so you can use that as a method for organizing, and I like it because it causes you to think about your transition sentences, your topic sentences for your body paragraphs, as well as think about what you want to talk about first, what you want to use next. Okay, and so this can be used instead of the fishbone diagram if you find this to be something that's more manageable for you. All right, so let's get into organizing those paragraphs, what you're going to put in them. If you choose to focus on causes, okay, so say I'm taking the Patriot Act legislation and I want to look at what caused it. First, I would want to explain a little bit about the Patriot Act. I'd have to let people know what it was and suggest some of the possible causes that I would be discussing in the paper. My introduction is where I'm going to do that. It's where I'm going to describe that event, describe what the Patriot Act is, and build towards my thesis. The body paragraphs will look at several different causes. Okay, so one might be identifying, well, the 9/11 terrorist attacks were one cause for the Patriot Act, but I can't stop at one, and so I would have to look for other causes. And then it's not enough just to say that Congress wrote and passed the Patriot Act as a reaction to the terrorist attacks of 9/11. I need to clearly show how they relate. Why did this legislation come from that event? Okay, so be sure that in your body paragraphs, you're not just stating X is a cause for Y, but you're explaining to us why it caused that thing to happen. Your conclusion is going to, as we mentioned before, sum up those key events, and it's going to, let us know how you want us to respond to that knowledge and how that's going to help us understand the event better, or how it's going to help us in our reaction to the event. All right, then if you are looking at effects, if you started with the Patriot Act as your event, the passing of this legislation, then if you're writing an effects focused essay, you're going to look at what's happened because of the legislation. So again, you want to start by explaining the event and hinting at or kind of broadly letting us know what effects you're going to be writing about. And again, that happens in the introduction. Then your body paragraphs explore the different effects. So you might say one of the first effects after this legislation was passed is X. A longer lasting effect has been Y. And again, it's not enough just to claim that this is an effect. You need to show the connection. How do we know for sure that X was caused by the event that we're writing about or the situation that we're writing about? And again, your conclusion is going to sum that up and let us know how we should respond, or how understanding this relationship can affect our behavior or our responses to the situation. So the organizing, okay, what we just looked at, that idea of your outline. Okay, this is the 5-paragraph basic structure that I just showed you when we talked about the body paragraphs. You want to establish your focus within a body paragraph. You want to give supporting details. You want to explain those examples. You're always building research into these paragraphs. These are not just your own ideas off the top of your head. They need to be backed up from articles, from reputable websites, from books, whatever you can find. And it's always better if you can cite multiple different sources within a paragraph rather than just using one source as your proof for a specific cause or a specific event. Remember, I talked about the more different voices you can bring in that all say the same thing, the more credible your argument is to that effect. So that's the basic 5 paragraph. There's another way to think about organizing your cause and effect, and that might be laying out what is more of a 4 paragraph here. Your introduction stays the same. Your description of this would be using that more difficult structure that we talked about, where we talk about causes and effects. So you might have 1 or 2 or maybe 3 paragraphs going into causes, and then you would get into the effects, and you walk us through the effects of this event. And then finally, you would give us the meaning. Okay, so what is understood, what is learned through, and why is this cause and effect relationship important to us? Okay, so it's a little bit more complicated, but sometimes if you have a really complicated issue, this might be the better way to approach it.